on August 29th of 1940 in the Chagbay area of Lafourche Parish. Earl Roy Gros moved to Shreva at a very young age and spent much of his adolescence in the sugarcane fields of northern Terrebonne Parish. When Gros was a student at Terrebonne High School in Houma, head football coach William Buck Sieber recognized him as a big kid with excellent speed and toughness and encouraged him to join the Tiger football squad. It wasn't long before Gros became a two-way starter for Terrebonne High at both fullback on offense and defensive back on defense. In his junior year, he was voted as the 1956 most valuable defensive back for the Tigers. He went on to have a tremendous senior year in the offensive backfield, where he was noticed by then LSU head football coach Paul Dietzel. Dietzel signed Gros to a scholarship, and he transformed the Terrebonne Tiger into an LSU Tiger.
He ran track in his sophomore year, so we knew he was a very good athlete. He was a sprinter and a weight man, and he was about 200 pounds. And in those days, you didn't have many 200-pounders even playing. So, everybody knew he was a good athlete, and the coaches were trying to convinced him to come out for football. And his dad was a sugarcane farmer in Shreva, and said no, he's got to come work on, when he gets off of school, he's got to come get in the fields and work. So for his junior year, a bunch of guys went to his dad and tried to convince him to let Earl come play football, because we needed him. And they were successful in convincing his dad that Earl should play football. So he didn't play ball until his junior year. An interesting story, one day we were at practice and Coach Sieber said to me, he says, "Look, Jake, I want you to try out as linebacker." I said, "Well, okay, Coach." And I had not played linebacker at all, I was playing defensive back. So I did, and the guy who had the ball was Earl Gros. And he came through the line, and I met him, and he started walking all over me from my head to my foot, my feet to my head. And Coach said, "That's okay, get back in the backfield." Terrebonne High was #1 in the state the whole season until they met Estruma High School. And they got beat by Estruma. And of course, Estruma won the district. We were in the district with Estruma, Baton Rouge High, Catholic High, and Bogalusa. But Terrebonne had Earl Gros, Tommy Thompson, and John McCoy, and a host of other real good players. And there's no doubt that he could play college ball. Earl didn't show a lot of emotion. He was kind of quiet and just was very intense when he got on the football field. But other than that, he was really laid back. And he acted that way in high school. He didn't seek the limelight or the glory. He'd just go out and do his job and do it very well.
Gros was a freshman on LSU's undefeated 1958 national title team, but freshmen were not allowed to play back then. In 1959, the Tigers went 9-2 and lost in the Sugar Bowl to Ole Miss. Gros was a major factor in the LSU backfield that year, carrying the ball 49 times for 262 yards as a sophomore. In 1960, the Tigers went 5-4-1 and did not make a bowl. But in 1961, Gros was part of a 10-1 team that won the SEC title and the Orange Bowl with a 25-7 victory over Colorado. He led the team in rushing that year with 406 yards and 4 touchdowns and was tabbed as a second-team Associated Press All-SEC selection. In his career with LSU, Gros rushed for 782 yards and scored 6 touchdowns. In 1961, the 6'3", 220-pound fullback received the Percy E. Roberts Award as LSU's most valuable player. In the spring of 1962, Gros was drafted as the 14th player in the first round of the NFL Draft by the Green Bay Packers and Vince Lombardi. What many people don't remember is that he was also drafted in the second round of the AFL Draft by the Houston Oilers. Although much of his rookie season was spent trying to secure playing time behind a Green Bay backfield that featured future Hall of Famers Jim Taylor and Paul Hornung, the Packers did win the NFL championship and finished the season 13-1. Gros had a respectable season, rushing 29 times for 155 yards and a lofty 5.3 per carry average, second only to Taylor's 5.4 per carry. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns in spot duty behind Hornung that year. Gros played 1 additional year with Green Bay before he was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles in 1964. In Philadelphia, Gros had a very productive first season, rushing for 748 yards and 2 touchdowns. While his rushing totals declined to 479 and 396 yards in 1965 and 66, he registered 7 touchdowns rushing and 2 receiving in each of those seasons.
The Eagles with second down now. The draw play to Earl Gros. Gros is hit hard by Lindsey and knocks him right off. Gros still running to the outside with some room. Finally, Beach knocks him out of bounds. A 33-yard gain by the fullback Earl Gros. 4th and goal. King Hill's faking. He's going to go for the fullback in the end zone. Gros has it for a touchdown. A daring call by King Hill, the quarterback. And it's Eagles 17, Browns 14. Now the crowd does have something to shout about at Franklin Field. Earl Gros coming over to the bench with Ronnie Goodwin. Pete Retzloff congratulates the big fullback for a great set of hands. 1st and 15 on the Eagle 10-yard line. King Hill, the quarterback. The handoff to Gros behind a great trap block. Breaks out in the open and now gets behind Ronnie Goodwin. Gros up the middle and finally pulled down from behind by Erich Barnes.
After 3 seasons with the Eagles, Gros, a durable back who only missed a handful of games in the NFL, was then traded to Pittsburgh, where he played for 3 years before concluding his career with the Saints in 1970.
He also hit running back Earl Gros, number 38, for another Pittsburgh touchdown. But unfortunately for Hanratty, he also threw 3 interceptions.
He finished his career with 821 rushes for 3,157 yards and 28 touchdowns. He also had 142 receptions for 1,255 yards and 10 scores. Gros played in 108 NFL games. After the completion of his football career, Gros returned to Louisiana and settled down in Prairieville. In later life, he declined media interviews, instead letting the merit of his accomplishments stand as his history.
I really didn't get to know Earl very intimately until a couple of years before his death. We reconnected and became good friends and visited with each other and had, conversations then.
He passed away peacefully at the age of 72 on July 15, 2013. His funeral was at St. Bridget's Catholic Church in Shreva, and he's laid to rest in St. Bridget's Cemetery. A quiet and humble man, Earl Gros was and will always be a shining star of the Bayou region.